A revived ISIS rampages in Moscow. Wall Street Journal, one of the most coherent pages, along with the Telegraph in Britain. A revived ISIS rampages in Moscow. By the way, why is ISIS revived? Because Biden left Afghanistan. That's why. Did he do anything good? If you take the word good seriously, I can't think of anything. To all the other security risks in the world, you can add the return of Islamic State as a killing machine. You think of Hamas, Hezbollah, Boko Haram, ISIS. Do you realize how many Muslim murder machines there are? Slaughter machines? And do you realize how cowardly most of the media are? They're just cowards because cowardice is the dominant human characteristic. More than any other crappy characteristic of the human being, cowardice is the most dominant. People are afraid to say, look at all the Muslim murder machines out there. If there were Jews or these were Christians, that's what they would say. The left accuses Israel of genocide, one of the great lies on earth. Pure lie. Pure. But anything repeated enough is believed. Russians were the victims on Friday as gunmen attacked civilians at a Moscow concert venue, killing at least 133. ISIS suicide bombers killed more than 80 in Iran in January. And no one should doubt that the jihadists are looking to target Americans sooner or later. And by the way, are any of them already here through the southern border? Blaming Ukraine now helps Mr. Putin distract attention from his earlier dismissal of what has now cost so many innocent lives. And it deflects from the fact that Russian security was so inept that the killers could rampage for an hour at the Russian capital and somehow escape in a car. I mean, that's really something. That's the capital city of a country. ISIS, which has revived with a sanctuary in Afghanistan since President Biden's 2021 withdrawal. The ISIS Khorasan branch competes with the Taliban, I forgot to mention them, and Al-Qaeda. Let's say there were a group of Christians that did this. A group of Christians slaughtered 133 innocent people somewhere. You realize that Christians would be running, not walking, to the nearest media microphone to denounce it, to say what a disgrace this is to the Christian message. The ISIS Khorasan branch competes with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda for jihadist supremacy. By the way, you know how you attain jihadist supremacy? By slaughtering the most innocents. That's it. That's how you attain it. But the Taliban lacks the ability and perhaps the desire to eliminate ISIS in Afghanistan. Unworried about a U.S. attack on its hideouts, ISIS leaders can focus on planning attacks against foreigners, as they have in Iran and now Moscow. So, as you know, I read comments to most articles that I read. So here's a comment I thought I'd share with you from a Wall Street Journal subscriber. Under Trump's presidency, ISIS was defeated and the southern border was secure. By reversing all of Trump's policies, Biden has unleashed worldwide chaos. Correct. That is exactly right. To my pleasant surprise, the New York Times' David Brooks, who has been moving away from conservatism in the course of his long career now at the New York Times, wrote a very powerful piece. What would you have Israel do to defend itself? Every generation, every age seems to have a morally clarifying moment. If you didn't realize how evil communism was during the Cold War, it said a great deal about you. If you're anti-Israel now, it says a great deal about you. At best, you're morally confused. At worst, you are the useful idiot for evil. He begins, there seems to be a broad consensus atop the Democratic Party about the war in Gaza, structured around two propositions. First, after the attacks, by the way, did you see the comments? They almost all disagreed with David Brooks. He doesn't represent the New York Times readership. The two propositions. First, after the attacks of October 7th, Israel has the right to defend itself and defeat Hamas. Second, the way Israel is doing this is over the top. In President Biden's words. In other words, these are the two propositions of the Democratic Party. Of course, Israel has a right to defend itself, but it's gone too far. What it should do is lose. That's what it means. That's the gist of his article, and that's the gist of truth. Israel should lose. The vast numbers of dead and starving children are gut-wrenching. The devastation is overwhelming, and it's hard not to see it all as indiscriminate. Which leads to an obvious question. If the current Israeli military approach is inhumane, what is the alternative? Is there a better military strategy Israel can use to defeat Hamas without a civilian bloodbath? In recent weeks, I've been talking with security and urban warfare experts and others studying Israel's approach and scouring foreign policy and security journals in search of such ideas. I will say this about David Brooks. He does his research. He reads a lot. The thorniest reality that comes up is that this war is like few others because the crucial theater is underground. Before the war, Israelis estimated Hamas had dug around 100 miles of tunnels. Hamas leaders claimed they had a much more expansive network, and it turns out they were telling the truth. The current Israeli estimates range from 350 to about 500 miles of tunnels. The tunnel network, according to Israel, is where Hamas lives, holds hostages, stores weapons, builds missiles, and moves from place to place. By some Israeli estimates, building these tunnels cost the Gazan people about $1 billion, which could have gone to building schools and starting companies. So why did Hamas spend $1 billion on tunnels? Because they have only one interest: killing Jews and destroying Israel. That's it. That's their interest. They have no interest in building up Gaza. Every supporter of Hamas needs to know that, and when they do know it, it doesn't matter to them, because they don't care a damn about Palestinians. They hate Israel. That is the leftist modus operandi. Communists didn't care about workers. Feminists don't care. The feminist organizations don't care about women. LGBTQ organizations don't care about LGBTQ. They're just leftists. That's why there are queers for Palestine. Palestinians kill queers, but they're still for Palestine because they're leftist before they're pro-gay. For the full episode of The Dennis Prager Show, go to pragertopia.com, sign up, and become a full member.